Welcome back to the Notary Podcast, hosted by me, Daniel C. Lewis. And this week, this week I got exactly what you have been asking for, the 2025 Notary of the Year. You're not going to want to miss this one. Cue the music. Welcome back to the Notary Podcast, hosted by me, Daniel C. Lewis. And this week, as I promised, the 2025 National Notary of the Year. Now, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We're going to get right into it. Welcome to the podcast, the 2025 National Notary of the Year, Marcy Tiberio. How you doing, Marcy?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to always be here with you, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I know you're very busy. Thank you for being here. And I think this is your second time on the podcast.
It is. I'm so excited. I hope that it goes well, and then I'll come back for maybe a third time somewhere down the road.
Yes. In fact, Marcy and I will be at the National Notary Association Conference in Las Vegas. That's next month. And we're going to do a live podcast there. Marcy's going to be one of my special guests.
I totally forgot, but yes, we are. So I will be on a third time, no matter how badly this might go. There are no options. You got to have me back for a third time.
Yes, we got to have you back for a third time. And this time, this is a very special podcast because you've been named the National Notary Association Notary of the Year. How does it feel to be named that as a Notary of the Year?
So, as we talked about, it's very surreal. I know so many of the past notaries of the year, and they are notary giants in the community, right? I'm looking and talking to one right now. I am so grateful. I think that I am so appreciative that people feel that way about me or think that of me. I am in great company. It really just makes me want to work harder, like to live up to that expectation. I appreciate that people think that of me. I just think of myself as, a notary out here doing what needs to get done.
Well, I've known you for several years now, and it's well deserved. What does receiving that national recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
So, what's so funny is that when they said they want to talk to me, they want to talk about something, I don't know, the articles, and I was like, okay. And then all of the NNA people started to come on to the call, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what did I do now? Like, I was trying to rack my brain as to why this would have happened. When they told me, it was really, like I said, I was at a loss for words, which almost never happens, so go figure. But I think, like I said, I was just so grateful. Like, I couldn't believe that, the notary community felt that way about me. And then I was so happy for my notary community because I couldn't have done any of this on my own. Like, my family and friends and support, my team here at PNS who does so much, the notaries who work for me, my community out there. We talk about, we've known each other for a long time now. You are part of my community. We go back and forth. We have conversations. We write articles together. I'm so grateful for everyone who's been with me on this journey. Like, this award is really about all of you because I didn't do this on my own.
Aw, you're so sweet.
Thank you.
Said, like you said, we've known each other. We written articles together. And one of the articles that really stand out to me was we talked about basic notary mistakes in loan signings. Which do you find most prevalent? What mistakes do you see with notaries? Because you have a signing company too. So what mistakes do you see that are most prevalent?
I think we really are in a place where you don't do a great job of reading and following directions. Like, that attention to detail isn't a thing anymore. And I understand a little bit why. there are some companies who will give you pages and pages of instructions, right? And you think they're standard. No one has time to read 4 pages of instructions. It's overkill. I get that. So we really try to pare our instructions down to just the most important things when there are instructions. Sometimes there are no instructions. It's a simple package. You can sign any color, you collect ID, and you're good to go. But I think when it comes to reading those directions and following directions, like we just aren't in that place anymore. And so the mistakes that I see come out of that.
How do you yourself, as an owner of a signing company, keep updated on the evolving notary laws around the country?
So there's a lot going on, right? For us, we really are involved with, all the outside industries as well. We belong to Alto. We belong to the New York State Land Title Association. We belong to the Mortgage Bank Association. We belong to all of these other industry-related places. So we make sure we are updated in that space. And then I really do, with my NINA group, the New York Notary Alliance, we have LegalShield, which is a software that pulls in information for you. So we get tons of information off of there to make sure we're following the laws in that space. The news, other associations, lots of other state associations are really great about sharing their information. The NNA, the ASN, the AN, they're all these groups with great initials. They're all notary groups or industry places, right, that you can be involved in. So we have a lot of memberships, a lot of different places. So the information comes in from various sources.
And you mentioned the New York Notary Alliance, and you're actually the founder of the New York Notary Alliance. What are your primary goals for that organization?
So for us, it's really been a labor of love. I'm going to call it that. My accountant calls it a hobby, but it's really not. We're super busy over here. And she says that lovingly. It is one of those things that we started because we were really concerned about legislation being proposed or possibly passed without any sort of voice from the notaries themselves. So we spent a lot of time with advocacy, talking to legislators, working on pending legislation and new legislation, and then educating notaries, right? Really making sure that they know the nuances of the rules and laws and regulations in New York State. We don't have what I would say a great support system. And so we're trying to fill that gap as best we can.
And with that, do you have a series called In the Know?
Do.
Yes. So what is that?
So we talk to all kinds of people. It started a while back where I was like, let's talk to individuals. Let's do little trainings, apostille work and notary stuff and wedding officiant. And then it kind of evolved into, okay, let's talk to accountants and business people and see if we can get there. And then recently we've done a whole bunch with just notaries. Hey, come talk to me. Let's have a conversation. So it's a really informal, I'm not anywhere near your production here. It's just a super informal conversation. We call them little fireside chats. We talk to people about what they have going on, what's relative to the notary community, what's relative to business owners or small business people. We try to just kind of make these short little fun videos that anyone can jump in whenever they want. They have a few minutes or 30 minutes to get some information.
Oh, nice. Very, very nice. And you also the founder of Professional Notary Services, Inc. What inspired you to start that business?
So that started because I was very busy. So I was very busy as an independent notary, and I just couldn't handle all of the work on my own. I think it came to a head one day. I had 13 closings in one day. I left my house at 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get home till 11 p.m. at night. I can't tell how many miles I traveled, how much paper I went through that day. It was an incredibly busy day, and I was grateful and happy for it, but it wasn't sustainable. So I started to bring in friends of mine who were notaries that I knew in the area from my past life, working for the mortgage bank or in title company. And then they started doing closings for me. And then people would say, oh, well, since you're covering New York, do you know anybody in Florida? Do you know anybody in Connecticut? Do you know anybody? And that just kind of escalated from there where I was like, okay, this seems like something I can make a go of. Let's give it a try and see what happens.
And just with that, from my research, you manage about 1,100 subcontractors nationwide, which is very impressive. What strategies have you employed to maintain quality and consistency?
There are much bigger signing companies than me and some smaller too. We try to stay in that, that sort of medium place. So we really do try to use the same notaries over and over again. I know there's the perception out there that signing companies will use just the cheapest notary out there. And certainly there are companies who do have that business model. I'm not at all saying that that's not the case, but we really try to use our current stable of notaries. We like using the same ones over and over again. We build relationships and rapport with them. They know how we work. I know how they work. That's really the best way to work on consistent control because, you're better at what you are familiar with, right? And so that is helpful for us. Certainly, there are times we have to use new notaries. We're in a new area, or our notaries are booked, and then it becomes, maybe a little more challenging sometimes. But then again, sometimes not. I mean, we've brought on a few notaries in the recent past that have been amazing and incredible additions to what we do. So for me, it's really about consistency in who we use. I also try to match. It's going to sound funny, but try to match notaries with assignments that I think make the best sense for them, and avoid ones that don't. And I say that because sometimes they're just a personality conflict. Sometimes I know there's going to be challenges, and some notaries are better with it than others. I have some notaries who are amazing at the mechanics and the actual signing portion, and then other notaries do an incredible job of like smoothing the waters, right? They are the negotiators, the peacekeepers, and sometimes you need that at a closing. So we really try to match up that as well, and that helps with that consistency piece.
So if I was a brand new notary, how do I get in your preferred list? That's a question I'll always hear.
Yeah. So you are not going to get on my preferred list as a brand new notary. Like, I like to be very honest. You're going to have to do some work for me. It's going to have to be more than one or two closings. And you're going to have to prove that you know what you're doing, and that you're pleasant to my customers, and that you're on time, and that you're dressed professionally, and that you understand the importance of what we do. So I work with new notaries all the time, especially in areas that I'm new at, or said, if my current base is busy, I don't have a problem working with a new notary as a new to me or new to the industry. But there is a period of time, like a probation period. We want to make sure that all the things that you do well work into our business plan, right? That ethically and work ethically, we're all on the same space.
With the rise of remote online notarization, how do you see the notary profession adapting in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I'm not that person who thinks like it's going to go away, right? You're always going to have in-person notarization. There are people who just don't love remote online. Remote online is a wonderful tool for multiple reasons. It's certainly helpful for people who, especially the new generation, who like to do everything on their phone or on the computer, right? They don't feel the need to have that social interaction. There are some people who still do. There are some people who still love paper, right? I like paper. I'm old school, apparently. There are lots of reasons to use RON, right? For individuals out of the country. I have a woman who's immunocompromised, and she doesn't like to leave the house. I have another woman who is agoraphobic. She's scared to leave the house, right? These are all things that service could be life-saving to these people. So I'm an advocate for RON. I'm going to say this, though. When we talk to any notaries about doing RON or in person, the thing about RON is, just like we're on this call, everything is recorded, right? There's a record of what you do. And it's no less important than when you're in person, but it's important to remember, if you don't have a good knowledge of your state law, if you do not have a good knowledge of what has to be done in order to complete a notarization properly, you don't want that all recorded, right? Like, I know that sounds silly, but I'm saying this because I've seen notaries. I've been a signer on a call where it's supposed to be an oath issued, and the notary on the other side never issued an oath. She just notarized my paper and we moved on. So it's really important that you know all of those things. I think that RON is not for the faint-hearted. I say that because you really do have to be on the ball, right? And then you're juggling other things. It's not just about being a great notary. Now you're also dealing with technology piece. And not everyone is technologically savvy. Not everyone is a good RON candidate. So all of those things for me, in my mind, make it a wonderful service that you can add on and put in your notary toolbox. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you should really pay attention to the pros and cons of RON, just like the pros and cons of doing in person.
What challenges do you think notaries face today, and how can they be addressed through policies or practice?
I think what we're seeing as notaries is the sheer amount of fraud that's happening across the country, right? We're really seeing notary stamps being stolen, whether taken out of someone's car or stolen from a document they notarized previously and their name being used fraudulently, right? Or them notarizing a document that person manipulated them into notarizing. They've gotten much better. Like scammers and criminals, right? If they use their power for good, imagine what we could do. They're really good. And I think as notaries, we are helpers. We want to help people. We want to make sure that they get their estate planning or their property transfer and all the things done. It's hard to say no sometimes.
Yeah.
I think for notaries, we have to be so much more careful about who we come across and what they want and keeping track of our tools, right? Not leaving a notary stamp not locked up in the front seat of our car and all the things. So I think policy would be great in allowing notaries a little more leeway in the states that don't have it to say, this is not a great notarization for me, right? Like I have concerns, we should put a stop to that, right? So there should be some more controls on that and taking that liability away from a notary who says, this is not kosher. I don't think it's a good idea. I also think that putting better controls in how notaries function and where their information goes, right? Do we keep these open databases on the state of, here, look up your notary and find their information? Is that a good idea? Yeah, it's great for the consumer, but it's also great for the criminal. Is that what we want to do? Is there a way to protect the notary in a notification system, right? Like, so some states are now implementing property notification systems where, you get a notification if your name comes up in a transfer and you can see, was that me? Was it not? Could we do something for the notaries as well? Could we get a notification when a document re-recorded, right, gets notarized, gets recorded, or I know that would be a lot of notifications, but I'm just saying in general, we can implement better policies around the notarial world to make it more secure for the consumer, but certainly also more secure for the notary.
You're obviously very passionate about this industry. What actually drives your passion?
I really enjoy the people that I meet. I have met some amazing people over the years, and I love to hear their stories. There are the notaries who go in and they sign and they leave, and then there are the social chit-chatty notaries, and I am the social chit-chatty notary. I know you're probably shocked to hear that after all these conversations, but I love talking to people. Like I love meeting new people. I love going new places. It really does feed my soul, if we're going to say it that way, which sounds corny, but it's certainly true. I can appreciate the people. I remember I did a notarization for a woman and her husband who were adopting a child. They already had one child, and this was the brother of their child who had special needs in another country, and they couldn't adopt them both at the same time. But they could only do one, and then they had to bring the next one over. And we were all in the room, and the judge was on video, and I had to swear them in. And the little boy, so cute, ran over and said to me, ma'am, look at my paper. He had made this star in school, and they had made them do a twinkle, twinkle, little star, like, write your wish on there. And he wrote on there, I wish my brother gets adopted and comes to live with me, right? And waterworks. Like, I couldn't help myself, started to cry. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm so sorry. They were like, don't worry. We feel the same way. I was there for that. Like, I was part of their story. I helped them, complete that family. I don't know of any other occupation out there with a stamp and a pen that allows you to do something so vital to the community, right, to a family.
What would you say to notaries that want to differentiate themselves out there in the competitive market? How would a notary differentiate themselves?
So I just told someone the other day, I said, don't tell me what sets you apart from a bad notary. Tell me what sets you apart from other good notaries, because that's the key, right? And I always go back to this notary who was new to me, sent me an email and said, I'd really love to have an opportunity to work with you. And here's why, all the reasons why. And then at the end, he said, and I want to tell you about a situation I had where I made a mistake and how I had to fix it. And then he went into the scenario. And I was like, love that, hiring him, amazing. Because he didn't say to me, I never make mistakes. I'm always on time. I always drop same day. we know that that always doesn't happen. It can't happen. I mean, life happens, right? And there's bad weather or accidents or whatever might be the case. Like, we're human. We all make mistakes. And honestly, the mistakes aren't what bothers me as much as how you correct those mistakes.
Yes.
Right? Get it done. He really set the tone for, hey, Marcy, I know I'm human. I know I'm probably going to make a mistake here or there. And I want to make sure that you know I'm going to fix it for you. And that was an instant hire for me. I thought, this guy knows exactly what it is. I would tell notaries who are out there, don't tell me that you always do all the things, because I know that you can't. Tell me how you're going to fix that. Tell me how you're proactive about it. Hey, Marcy, I have 5 cases of paper in the back room. So I try never to run out of paper, or I update my computer, or I'm taking classes, right? I'm educating myself. Tell me those kinds of things. That's what I want to know.
What would you tell yourself if you were to go all the way back when you first started? What advice would you give yourself?
I think I would say 2 things. One, I would say be confident. I know it's hard when you're starting something new. It can be frustrating and it can be discouraging. It's very hard to break into any new profession, not just being a notary. So I think that I would tell myself to be more confident, like feel more comfortable going into the places and asking for work and doing the things. And that probably is the second thing that I would say is, I don't think when I started, I did a good job of like asking for help or talking to people who have been in the industry. I thought, I can do this on my own. And I did, and it worked out fine for the most part. But I probably could have gotten here quicker had I been more open to asking other people for support or assistance. And really, this is something that I learned just in the past year or so, which is so funny. Working on this legislative piece, there have been people that I've met over the years at conferences and networking, and I never wanted to ask them for that because I was like, oh, I feel bad and I don't want to bother them. And I was like, what the heck, Marcy? What did you do all that networking for if you weren't going to try to cash in some of those chips? And one single person that I have asked for help over the past year has said no to me. They've all been like, yeah, we'd love to help you. Yeah, this is great for us. Let's get involved. So I think that that's something that I wish I had thought of back then. I had been more open to, I don't want to call it help, but like reaching out to other people, right? Getting the support that I needed, like involving others into these grand scheme ideas that I had.
You got to tell us, who's the person that said no to you?
Sometimes, here's the thing about saying no. Sometimes people are really busy and they have a lot going on. And there's nothing wrong with saying no. And I'm saying this from a person who never says no and then, is on the verge of a breakdown because I'm like, there's so much to do and I don't have time. And so I'm going to say that too, as a newer notary, it's okay to say no. Like if you really can't do it, sometimes it's better than to overcommit, right? Because then what happens is if things go terribly wrong and you couldn't get it in or you couldn't get it done and it kind of went awry, you're thinking to yourself, that all that help that you tried to give by saying yes really ended up being a bigger mess to clean up. So there's nothing wrong at all with saying no. I actually would suggest it every once in a while. It's good for your mental health.
Any final thoughts you want to give us?
I want to thank everyone. If you got to the end of this podcast, I hope you found some value in it. I always appreciate Daniel allowing me to come on and talk. I think I just want to end this on a little note. If you get my newsletter, you would have seen something that I said this past week, which was I had a notary say to me, I do this for fun. Like, this is what I do for fun. And that really hit home for me because while it is fun for me and I love it, the idea that doing it for fun really comes across like it's a sort of a hobby, right? Something to do. And I want to impress upon notaries out there, you can get complacent, right? The longer that you do this, stamp and sign, the more it becomes rote for you. And you're just like, okay, but it's not that way for the person on the other side. And it is so important for us to remember the vital and critical role that notaries have in the world, right? The world doesn't turn without a notary. So I'm going to say to you, I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying your profession. I hope that it's meaningful for you. I hope it feeds your soul, like it feeds my soul. But I also hope that you, every day when you pick up that stamp, you remember how important our job is.
Oh, such a powerful message. Such a powerful message. Thank you so much, Marcy. Marcy from the New York Notary Alliance and Professional Notary Services, Inc., and the 2025 National Notary of the Year. Thank you so much for being a part of our podcast and making it a special podcast. Thank you again. If you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe to the podcast. We love doing this for you each and every week. And definitely leave a comment on today's podcast. Thank you again, Marcy, for being here. We'll see you next week. Thank you.